All right, we should be live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. And Kira's going to let me know if it's not working. And the meeting is being recorded.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Are we all here?
Yes.
Yes. And let me call the meeting to order. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Edmund Acosta,
Here.
Mark Barnes,
Here.
Aaron Ginsberg,
Here.
Joan Greco Cohen.
I'll be back.
Okay. Latrice Johnson,
Here.
Gerald Lander,
Here.
Helen Nelling,
Here.
Kathleen Simpson,
She's here. I see
who
her.
was here. Okay. And Cindy Zer was here.
Thank you.
For the library, Patrick Wall, the director, Cindy Dykeman, the office manager, and Carrie Bruce, interim assistant director, will be joined by outgoing assistant director Kathleen Gallagher momentarily.
Excellent. In your packet, you should have the minutes from last month's meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Nope.
In that case, may I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So move.
And a second? Aaron? Okay.
I would like to second that.
Okay. A motion has been made and seconded to accept the minutes from the March board meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Voice vote, please. Okay. Opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Patrick, do we have correspondence?
Yes, we received hand delivered from the Friends of the University City Public Library yesterday in advance of their annual meeting. Donations of $1,000 towards the landscaping bill from UCity in Bloom, $2,000 towards youth services programs, and this year towards furniture and fixtures, and then $14,000 unrestricted dollars as a gift that we'll be using towards summer reading and again, furniture and fixtures for the library and the renovations. So we'd like to thank the Friends for their very, very generous support. And that
That's great.
they are still, cognizant of, they want to do the party or, help with the party for the grand reopening once the buildings renovations are complete.
Well, tell them we're looking forward to that. And I will send the Friends a thank you note from the library board.
Oh, yes, thank you. And then I would ask Kathleen and Carrie, do you recall any other correspondence of note that we should make the board aware of? No. I, of course, got a letter of resignation from one of our staff, but.
Oh, you didn't accept it, did you?
Can we vote on that?
Yes, no, she did one of those. She did one of those like.
Too late.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
We're all
Thank you very much.
pleased. We're very pleased for you. We're very sad for us.
Well, thank you all
Yeah.
very much.
And we hope you will come back when we have our reopening party.
Mhm.
And
Bet
join in
I
the
will be there.
festival. Good, good. And I think we should all go to Kathleen's new library and ask really difficult questions. And no, but anybody who wants to go down there and tell them what a gem they've got, that would be a good thing.
Thank you, Helen.
You're welcome. Is Stacy?
I do not see
On.
Mr. Clay.
Okay. All right, let's defer the council liaison report and hope that Mr. Clay is able to join us later.
Oh, there he is.
And
He's coming in right
oh,
now.
here he is.
Whoa, sliding in.
Yeah. Hi, Stacy, just in time for our council liaison report.
Yes, thank you. Apologize for being tardy. I was transitioning out of work. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So you may have heard that Proposition F was not successful at the ballot. So the council will be looking at some options presented by the city manager, some alternatives to funding the pension. So we suspect we'll get that in the next couple of months from him. So we'll be taking whatever appropriate action we need to on that front. In other news, Costco is continuing to move forward. Although I can't speak to some of the other anchors that have expressed interest. I think the community will be pleased with who has expressed interest and who is taking the steps to move forward in that process. I'm specifically talking about the south side. Costco obviously is the big thing on the north side. There'll be something small, another smaller sub anchor there as well. But we're focusing a lot of attention on getting the south side shored up. So stay tuned, more on that when we can share it. But you have seen undoubtedly, or hopefully, the construction taking place on the north side, the entryway, the retaining wall. Some of those other pieces are being put in place. We did.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Are many of the buildings, tenants of those, the shopping centers moving into U City as far as you know? Staying here?
That's a good question. Some are definitely staying. I could probably get that information, Patrick, if we can connect maybe tomorrow to follow up with the city manager to get that information to the library board. Some are definitely staying. I think Nobu's is going to be relocating in New City. There were a couple, frankly. There was a check cashing place. We prefer they not remain in New City, to be completely honest. But I think some are definitely staying. I don't know the percentage off the top of my head.
Okay.
But Patrick, again, if we follow up tomorrow, I think the city manager does have that
Thank you.
information at his fingertips.
Great. Will do.
The council did meet on Monday. One thing that it was interesting in our study session is that whenever we have a census, depending on, typically there's a population fluctuation. We do need to redraw our ward boundaries. So nothing earth-shattering is taking place, but and as the study session, we don't make a vote. We just get information. But it seems like what will be happening is currently the third ward, and a lot of people I don't think fully appreciate this. It dips into what most people would consider the second or first ward in a couple of places. Up, I believe I want to say it's 81st Street. It dips just north of the middle school. There's a neighborhood there, Blanca, I believe, that is technically in the third ward. If you drove by, you would assume it's in the second ward, but it's actually in the third ward. If you go further up to Woodson to the north, McKnight to the south, we capture a street, we being the third ward, capture a street called Mayflower. And that was all a result of the last census and ward redistricting. The purpose is to balance out somewhat the populations in each ward. And so the first ward has actually seen the most amount of growth. The third ward has seen the least amount of growth. And again, in an effort to balance the population, you know, we've extended the third ward over a few different census redistrictings to balance out things. And so it looks like that's going to be happening again. So what is proposed and what will likely be coming before the council is the third ward would encompass on McKnight all the way up to Old Bonham. So you think Olive and McKnight, you know, McKnight to the south, Woodson to the north. If you continue up McKnight to Old Bonham, you're basically talking about those houses across the street from Ruth Park. Those would come into the third ward. So not a monumental change, but something that, you know, does happen with every census. So we discussed that. We also discussed
Stacy,
for those, yes.
staying with, in terms of balancing, is that balancing in terms of population or
Yes.
any other measurement?
Is population. So the first ward has, as it stands today with the new census numbers, has over 12,000 residents within the first ward. The third ward has just a tick over 11,000. So, and then the second ward is kind of historically in the middle in terms of population. And so again, the idea is to balance out the wards numerically somewhat. I mean, it's not exact, let's be clear, but to balance them out somewhat, you just take some people out of the first ward. That area is currently in the first ward, and you just add them to the third ward, and you get some kind of balance. Second ward, even though it's geographically smaller, if you look at a map, because of all the apartments, it has a much greater density than the first ward and even the third ward because of all the apartments. So they just have a lot of people, even though the second ward landmass is actually smaller.
Stacy,
Yes.
when will the folks who are changing wards be notified?
So we talked about that as well. The city, what Councilman Smotherson and I proposed is that the city would send out kind of an official notification, and then we would follow up with our own notification, welcoming people to the ward and letting them know who we are and that sort of thing.
Okay, good idea. Okay, thank you.
There were a couple of projects that came up at the council meeting. There was a proposed Avis rent-a-car, and I won't get into the weeds of what the actual process is, but essentially that proposal is not moving forward. That would have been at Old Bonham and Delmar. Would have been diagonal from the old pasta house, and what is now going to be the total access urgent care. That was not successful in moving forward. The other development is the Avenir development, which is taking place more in the King Dell neighborhood, which is there off of Delmar, close to Price, in that kind of area. I think if memory serves.
Where they're knocking down the building?
I think that's on the other side.
That's on the other side? Okay.
I think that's on the other side. So that did move forward with an amendment from the councilman in the first ward to accommodate some issues some of the neighbors had. So those are the biggest things that came out of that meeting this week.
Do you know what is happening where they're tearing down the building on Delmar?
a lot of things are happening, and what is that one?
Well,
Let-
it
let
was,
me-
yeah, was an office building, I believe, maybe a medical office building.
Just west of 170 on the
170.
north side.
Right, right.
North side.
Let me, Patrick, again, when we connect tomorrow, let's follow up on that one, because the particulars are escaping me at this point.
Okay. And I had heard that they might be starting work on the Harvard building of the Del Mar Harvard school.
Yes, that's sorry, I'm in the car. That does seem to be moving forward, slowly, but it does seem to be progressing.
Right.
Okay.
And
One other thing, please, Stacy. The Vision 2040 for U City
yes,
effort is any news to the council? Any reports from them to the council?
there have not been. I know there have been open houses that have taken place, in the survey that went out to residents, but we have not gotten a formal report to the council as of yet.
Okay. They're over halfway through, so stand by.
A fair point. A fair point. We probably someone should check in with us at this point.
Thank you.
And I had a question. Has there been any movement on that proposed quick trip at the corner of Olive and Handley? No, it's Midland. Olive and Midland.
Yes. So Quick Trip did buy the property. So that sale did go through. I think it closed a few weeks ago. So now they're in the process of just doing, whatever they do to prep the ground. I think they're not going to start anything in earnest till we get past this kind of rainy season, and then I think we'll start to see some actual movement of equipment and such. But they do own the property at this point.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Clay? Thank you so much for the update. We appreciate that, and we appreciate your follow-ups very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Is there any public comment?
We have not received any public comment.
Okay, then moving on to Patrick, your librarian's report.
Okay, we've got a number of items under, nothing too notable under the consent agenda. Well, I guess a couple of things. Carrie is kindly offered to serve as interim assistant director. Kara Kreckler will be serving as our new head of adult services, and then we're in the process of as I mentioned, some other personnel items right now. But other than that, is there anything that the board would like to pull out of the consent agenda?
I have a question. Is St. Louis County in the MLC? I had heard that the Polaris transfer was difficult at some of the county libraries, as in more than a week.
Okay.
Things frozen, accounts frozen, and people not being able to check books in or check books out or have updates.
I
on
would
the
imagine
full
with
computer
such
system.
a large migration that's not going to be. We had some issues when we moved to Polaris back in early 2016. So I wouldn't be surprised. I hadn't heard too much about that.
I just heard from people I know who use St. Louis County libraries a lot, and they said that Polaris switch was complicated.
Yeah, and when we first started, it was running tremendously slow for a while.
How long did it take before it got up to the speed you wanted?
I think we moved in December, and then I think in January, I was at the American Library Association meeting with one of the other directors, and we sort of took turns voicing our frustrations to the entire Polaris sales staff, and we got through. We followed up with our system administrator at the time, and she was able to get us up a couple levels at Polaris, and it took a month or two to get everything up to speed.
That must have been frustrating for the staff.
It was, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of click the button and just sort of stand there and wait.
What fun.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think there's still people on staff who, are not, not carrying a great love for the, that time period anyway.
I understand.
I think Polaris has worked, remarkably well since then. So, and they
Good.
continue to improve. We just did we migrated to their new owner, ProQuest's servers, sort of an involuntary migration, but it went relatively flawlessly. I think, especially as far as patrons could see. Any major problems with that, Carrie, that we heard about? No.
No, I think did we have some funny things with Overdrive maybe for a minute? I'm not sure if that was.
Yeah, there were some related things, but it's tough to tell because they were doing a lot of changes themselves too. So.
Right. Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, we ourselves, the MLC has not heard anything from the county about any of that. So.
Okay. Anything else in the consent agenda? Okay. Let's move to discussion items. Our favorite discussion item, the building project. Patrick, what would you like to say about the project? Several of you have been in the Building and Grounds Committee meeting, but others have not. So let's make sure everybody knows everything they want to know.
Yeah, the construction sign has been ordered, and they incorporated the changes that the various board members had suggested. So we were glad about that. We were happy that, even though we were told a couple of times that Bond is not acting as our agent with the abatement company, they did act as our agent and helped get a couple of bumps smoothed out the last week. Midwest and Ranieri had come to an agreement about who's doing what in the last stages of that. So abatement is complete. Demolition is currently scheduled to be substantially complete by April 15th. And then the good news on phase one is that the parts we were waiting for on the four corner windows did show up. They had hoped to get that entire project done yesterday and today, but with the rain and with Public Works sort of informing them that they needed to talk to the trolley company before getting too near those wires, or staying too near those wires. The one window is in, the other three should be in next week by the 19th and 20th. We still are worried about the window leaks. I'm hoping to head over there and sort of see what it looks like after the rains today. And then we've got just a couple of other, some of the light fixtures on the parking lot side need to have the reflectors changed out. And there's a couple of other minor issues in that the punch list that was at the end of this month's packet. Well, before the action items, I'm sorry. 25.
For those of you who were not in the earlier committee meeting, if you've had a chance to look at the PowerPoint about the furniture. Do you have any questions about the furniture? The committee has asked for Patrick to go back to Bond about a couple of things, some of which are aesthetics and some of which are durability and cleanability. And Patrick assures us that the kind of cafeteria looking chairs that are the light colored chairs are very easy to clean. There was some concern that maybe the office area was not going to be as cheery as it could be. And so he's going to take that back, Carrie and Kathleen and Cindy, to you and the rest of the staff to make sure you're okay with that palette. Latrice, I think you had some comments about the children's area too.
Yeah, it was just the color of it. I was just looking at the snake and it was very colorful, but doesn't seem that's what the color is going to be. It just looks like it's still going to be it. Oh, I don't know what it is. Okay, it could have been that. This is something long. And it looks like it was just going to be the basic of that brown and blue constant, it was a children area and I'm just thinking more colors,
Lighter colors there.
just not the same thing all over again.
And as Helen mentioned, we had a lot of comments about the aesthetics of the different colors of things and the tabletops, et cetera. And Patrick did mention that he's had discussions with Bond as well as a committee from the library, members of the library who have a lot of input into that as well. So we're happy to hear from anybody else.
Yeah,
and it's really good to get a lot of those comments. Now, as I said, we've already ordered the plastic chairs and the plastic stools, but everything else is still.
That's right. I was going to mention that. So the rest of it is still up for ideas and things, except for those one set of chairs.
Yeah.
Well, and I would urge the staff to make sure that they're happy with choices, and maybe go back to the folks who work with the kids and validate that too.
That's a really good idea.
The other thing I saw that we discussed, and which I didn't even know about, was these portable power chargers, which I think are a great idea, that get charged at a central location. And then there's upright things that you can plug in for your phones and computers and things. And they're portable, movable. They get charged at a separate location, so there's no wires, and people can just plug in and charge. And I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, I was, Kathleen, do you recall at our previous meeting with Bond, had that been brought up? The meeting Carrie and I were at, they showed those, but I didn't recall seeing those before.
We certainly discussed them in generalities, but I really thought, no.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
About getting charging stations. I didn't know they were going to be like that. And they're kind of cool looking, yeah.
And Helen, I would submit this as the Building and Grounds Committee report. Thank you, Patrick. And everybody else, and everybody, Latrice and whoever else commented.
I have a question. Patrick, do you know, did anybody sit on any of this furniture before it was proposed or ordered, or, I mean, how do you know how comfortable?
Answer that. You guys went out and looked at some of the furniture way back when, right?
Sorry. Yes, we did. And, looking at the slides again, we sat on so many things, but honestly, I don't think they showed us anything that didn't, from a comfort or sort of usability standpoint, it all seemed great to me.
I think Kara mentioned, because Kara was at the meeting last week where they showed the chairs from youth services, that they were sort of very comfortable and yet seemingly indestructible.
Yeah, the youth stuff I was pretty impressed with from MBI. I had a very positive impression of that stuff. So,
Thank you.
I was most concerned about staff furniture because they're there all day.
Mhm. Yeah, we definitely want to get some good quality desk chairs. I think we're long past the end of life for a lot of our desk chairs.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
The other thing that was discussed at the committee meeting was what to do with the
Mhm.
furniture we're no longer going to use. And I think we thought, let's see what we have that we don't want at the end of the project. And then think about sale or donation, depending on which is, would be the best for what we've got. So, okay, anything else on the furniture? Okay, well, we have action items are payments and invoices. So Patrick?
Yes, and I'd refer you to the revised page 4 that was sent out because we received the one invoice late in the process. The first action item is the approval of February request for payment from RG Ross. RG Ross submitted a request for payment for a total of $15,163.92 for work completed in March. Bond has certified that request. I was in error when I said that this will be paid out of the library's account. I was assured by Eric Creech and by Eric Creech that since it was current work, it can be paid from the funds held by BOKF as a result of the sales of the certificates of participation.
This is actually lower than requiring a board approval, but Patrick wanted to bring all of these to the board, so.
If no one objects, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request to pay RG Ross the $15,163.92.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Cindy, would you like to call the roll? And we'll.
Sure. Edmund Acosta,
Aye.
Mark Barnes,
Aye.
Aaron Ginsberg,
Aye.
Joan Greco Cohen, Latrice Johnson,
Here. Aye.
Gerald Lander,
Aye.
Helen Nelling,
Aye.
Kathleen Simpson, and Cindy
She's aye.
Sarwis. Aye.
Okay, any nays? Okay, the motion passed and the RG Ross will be paid for that amount. Patrick, do you want to talk about the next invoice?
Yes, this is from Bond Architects. They submitted one invoice for payment at the time, and I said at the time of this report, I checked with Bond and they said, nope, they were only going to send us the one. It's for $10,104.60. And this is for phase 2B work. And again, this would be paid out of the BOK, the funds that are being held by BOKF.
But you actually have the authority to pay that.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay.
I'm just confused about what gets paid out of what pot.
Yeah, so I misunderstood. Apparently, Eric explained it to me again. I thought that we were paying all things that had been contracted before we got the funding. That we were paying that out of pocket, but we don't need to. Anything that happened since we did the certificates of participation can be paid out of that, including the phase 1 work.
Thank you.
So the fact that it was delayed by so many months, means that it's paid out of the COP. So.
Thank you.
And would you like to discuss the third request from Ranieri, which is a sizable amount?
Yes.
Can I make a motion that we
I don't think
We don't need,
pay Bond Architects $10,104.60?
actually, Patrick can pay that without our approval.
Great.
Oh.
Okay.
And then Rhaenyra Construction has submitted 2 invoices. The first that we received was for $39,055.74. And this was for bonding related to the soon to begin phase 2B part of the project. And then the second invoice in the amount of $80,110.71 was for work completed on the demolition. And I did review the payroll information and checked it against the Missouri prevailing wage documents, and it seems to all be in order. And both of those, as with the RG Ross one, have been approved by bond and signed by bond.
Aaron,
Yes. I would like to make a motion that we approve the request for payment from Rhaenyra for the amount of $119,166.50.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Cindy, would you call the roll?
Edmund Acosta,
Aye.
Mark Barnes,
Aye.
Aaron Ginsberg,
Aye.
Latrice Johnson,
Aye.
Gerald Lander,
Aye.
Helen Nelling,
Aye.
Kathleen Simpson,
Aye.
and Cindy Zerwas, aye.
Is there an A? In that case, the motion is approved and Rhaenyra's invoices will be paid. The next item on the agenda is the president's report. And I have only one thing to mention, which is that election for officers will be held at the next board meeting in May. I am willing, if you are willing to have me, I am willing to serve for another year. And I would urge the current officers to also be willing to serve for another year. And if that is not the case, please let me know. If anyone else is interested in running, please let me know so that we can have a full slate for our election in May. Any questions about the election? There will, Edmund.
Yes. Who will be outgoing, graduating from being on the board, like me, and who might be coming in?
According to the most recent document we got from the city clerk, the Reese, Edmund, your term is up in June, and you have served 3 full terms. Let's see. Joan is eligible for another term. Her term's up in June. And Helen is up for another term, is up for renewal. She's just completing her first term. So if Helen and Joan would like to continue on, we just need to let Mr. Clay know. And then we also need to let him know that we'll have the 1 seat coming vacant.
Okay.
I don't know at this time who we have, who might have put in an application. I talked to one frequent patron who would express an interest in serving on the Memorial Day Run Board, and I suggested that perhaps she'd like to have, submit an application for the library board as well.
Mhm.
But if
Thank
anyone
you.
knows anyone who they think who lives in University City and would be a good fit for the board, I would encourage you to ask them to fill out the application that the city clerk keeps on the website.
And Edmund, thank you for your service on the library board.
For
Yes.
9 long years, I've been.
It's been very quick.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Well, we have so appreciated your service, your insight,
Hey,
your
2 terms
charm.
as president.
Okay.
Yes, your service as president. And we hope that you will continue being a part of our long-range planning in some capacity.
Thank you. I intend to. I won't be a stranger.
Good. Actually, the next thing on the agenda is committee reports, and the first one is the Long-Range Planning Committee. So Edmund, would you like to let us know?
Do you want me to bring those documents up, Edmund?
Yes, please. You should be able to see one at a time, 4 different documents and displays. And the idea here is in order to share what our vision of a long-term plan is with you, the board. Number 2 is to let you know where the long-term planning committee meeting is at this point. And then the third thing is just a brief envisioning of how we might broaden the input from the rest of the community for the eventual long-term plan. We started off becoming much more active probably about 3 months ago, and we started off with a clock diagram. And this clock diagram doesn't even have a title on it, but it does have, after some discussion, it does have a set of aspirations and parts and elements of what is involved in running a good library. So we had about 12 of them. And the idea there is to be able to focus in on the ones that are the highest priorities. And instead of having 12 separate silos going on at one time, what might be the terms that might encompass some of the other terms that are on this. And diagram 2 still is with the clock, sticking with the clock. We realized that from the first clock, patrons was the highlighted concern and priority for our libraries. And then we realized that operations, thank you, Helen, for coming up with the term for operations, was a necessary element for a well-run library. And we took several of the other 12 items. We took in number 10 as finance, number 8 was collections, and number 7 was building and grounds. And those made up the crux of continuing day-to-day operations. Now, so we realized that there are 2 aspects to this, to a long-term plan. There's where we are now, what's the status quo? And to what extent do we want particular other elements to change, to get better or more? So patrons, finance, collections, building and grounds is something that if we look out 5 years, do we want to be at the same level of efficiency and output that we are now in operations? That means hardly any change in the number of people that walk in the door, the number of transactions that take place, the distribution of dollars is just about the same as it is now, and not much has changed. Well, that's probably not the idea for most of us. We'd like to focus in on the ideas of better and perhaps more. So that's now, if we go to the third document, please. Thank you. This is one of the very most recent ideas of how we have strategic directions here. We have strategic directions in operations and in services and community engagement and in visibility of the library. Alongside, up and down, vertically, in yellow are highlighted first two are priorities and objectives. And the priorities are stated without being very specific in terms of how much. Better, yes, but how much? Precisely, hardly any specificity on it. Also, we could begin to explain what operations really entails. Well, it entails the things that are listed under the objectives, and each one of those objectives still stated without very much measure or quantitative specificity, still stated in headline terms, bumper stickers, rather than in numbers. So each one of the objectives within operations might be is necessary for the operations up above, but not every one of those operations might necessarily be a focus of the operations. Please note that we have for any long-term plan, we have something called priorities, which are big buckets. Then we get into the little sub buckets of each one of the big buckets. Then we have a double line. Double line will be those entries which are measurable. Just saying more financing and more patrons is not specifying what we're actually wanting to have as an outcome in terms of measurements. For example, objectives has a sub bucket called patrons. Goal with regard to patrons might be in 5 years or in year 4, year 5, we might want to have 40% more patrons, how measured in a particular way. Now, that's a goal which is measured as, which is specified in terms of some quantity. And then underneath the project would be, okay, how might we be able to get around to attaining that goal, that measurable goal? Well, and that's where the project can be defined very specifically, and assets thrown at that particular project, and have a time schedule for that, none of which is up above that double line. So, for example, next example, under services, what does services mean to you in smaller buckets? Well, I threw in a few smaller buckets. We often say programs and services. Services is the bigger bucket, and then programs are a little more specific, They have names like for youth enhancement, youth education. All right, and under that, we can break it down into more specific cohorts. And for West University City, which is underserved for us, we want to be better about that. If the answer is yes to that, underneath in goals, we should be able to say, well, how can we actually serve? What will it take to actually serve better the underserved portions of U City? And we might say, instead, we might have 2 vehicles that whose main job is to be out there and circulating and serving serving the homebound, the housebound, perhaps having scheduled stops where people can come up and get library services from 2, 3, or 4 different vehicles and people associated with that. So that would be an example of how we could measure that goal in how much and how many more patrons would we want to be able to serve with a specific target number. And that's what I really wanted to show, that any plan, long-term plan, has these, what we want, these aspirations above the dotted line, above that double line. These are the aspirations that can be stated in very short sentences or phrases. And then getting down to specifics, how to accomplish that is what needs to be filled in underneath. And this first phase of our strategic plan effort, our long-term plan effort, is to fill in, to get more specific up in the headline phase, within each one of these priorities, these strategic directions. And the fourth, and not yet, focus in on the measurable goals and the specific projects. If you take a look at number 4, the diagram number 4, I spent 45 minutes trying to fill in smaller buckets for each one of the big buckets, for each one of the strategic directions. The smaller buckets were able to bring a bit more meat to the idea of innovation. The small buckets are able to bring a bit more meat and meaning and nuance into the priorities that are, again, bumper stickers. And then when we come to an agreement as to when we, the committee and the board, come to an agreement as to what the objectives, this full slate of objectives looks like, then we could start coming up with specific selections of the small buckets that warrant a project, and then get specific about those projects. Okay, that questions so far on this? Because I just have the very next thing about how to get out into the community and get more input from more than simply the committee, the subcommittee for long-term, and the rest of the board. Any questions on this differentiation? One question might be, where's our mission statement? Well, that is the very first one, not placed in here, but it should be a yellow label above priorities. And using a term that Joan used, we don't need to reinvent that, because we've already got a mission statement that is the crux, the basics of a mission statement that from 2018. Now, there are plenty of things that need tweaking there. However, it is not an overall overhaul of the mission statement. I was listening to Patrick, and he had some very specific suggestions and thoughts on how to modify and enhance the current mission statement that we have. So these are the elements, and where are we? We are at diagram number 3. I would like our next subcommittee meeting to be able to have quick discussions for each one of these vertical priorities like services, innovation, personnel, and so on, and fill in sub buckets along the objectives row. And as a draft of the buckets and sub buckets. And beyond that, we might have discussion groups among invited or volunteer members of the community. And there are multiple people out there who are involved with University City Vision 2040. I'm thinking that perhaps some of those should be invited to have discussions as to what really should be our sub buckets and associated goals. So
Cindy.
questions, please.
Yes, Edmund, I have a question. Have you submitted this to the library staff to get all of their wonderful input based on their experience and what they deal with, or?
No, we have only spoken among our subcommittee and Patrick and Helen. So of course, thank you very much for pointing that out. Staff is certainly part of the additional embracing of ideas and insights. Thank you.
Okay, Edmund, would you like to work with Patrick on the best way to get input from the staff without overwhelming them?
For sure. Thank you. For sure. I'd be glad to. And I'd be glad to.
I think everyone is invited to the long-term planning committee meetings.
Yes.
And the next one is on April the 27th at 3:30 p.m. And Patrick and I will make sure that everyone gets the Zoom link so that if they'd like to attend, they can.
Appreciate that. I'd forgotten to put that in.
Because the more people who participate, the better the product.
Better. That's right.
Well,
That's right.
We're at the point of, we don't want too many at any one.
I know, but this is the idea stage, so.
Yeah. Aspirations, unconstrained aspirations is what we're looking for right now. That can fit onto a bumper sticker.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Edmund.
You're welcome.
The next committee report is Personnel and Policy. Cindy?
Sure. I would like to thank all of the board members who've turned in their evaluations for Patrick. And I would like to again remind those who have not turned them in to me to please do so at your earliest convenience. Thank you. And our next meeting will also be on April 27th at 4:30. Thank you.
I thought it was at 2:30.
I thought it was at 2:30.
Oh, sorry. I wrote down wrong. My mistake. Thank you.
2:30. Yeah.
I'll send those links out.
And the reason we need you to get those in is because we need to tabulate and we've got work to do before the end of the year on that evaluation. Budget and finance, Erin?
Hi there. Well, first I want to thank UCity and Bloom for their generous support of, or not UCity and Bloom. I want to thank the Friends of the Library for providing funding so that we can pay UCity and Bloom and fund our youth programs and our summer reading programs. The Friends of the Library have been wonderfully supportive. I hope you guys have all had a chance to take a look over our updated budget. The 7% salary increase for full-time and 10% salary increase for part-time. Am I stating that correctly, Patrick?
I think those were just the budgetary numbers to allow for some other things. I think the board was discussing a 6% increase for all staff.
Okay, I apologize. Retract that last.
I think it's phenomenal and we really appreciate it.
And we want to support the good things that our staff are doing. So we are targeting hopefully to have a 6% overall increase. And hopefully, are we increasing the number of part-time staff?
At least in the short run, as we try to frantically get everything over into the building once again.
Okay, and obviously the final budget will not be ready until sometime in May. It's a work in progress and
we will have an opportunity to review and vote on the budget at the next board meeting. That's the May meeting. Gerald had to take off and he said that Patrick's review of the renovation project was his report. So we've gotten that. And for those of you who are unaware, we're having the budget and finance and building and grounds always before the board meeting at 4 and 4:30, respectively. Is there any old business? Is there any new business?
I would like to share just a very harrowing 12 to 15 hours that I just experienced. And I thought that I had lost my phone, and realizing that I had not backed anything up, thousands of pictures and hundreds and hundreds of contacts there, history that, so I was walking around with the thought that, boy, oh boy, I have to start off from, okay. What I'm suggesting is, please, if you can, back your stuff up onto a separate device.
Okay. The cloud's a good place too, for that.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, words of wisdom from Mr. Acosta. If there is no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay. Thank you all for your attendance and your interest.